That's a clown question, bro.
So I'm gonna kick some dirt.
He gets on base.
Just a bit outside.
I'm not the type of player that's going to be Johnny Hustle.
If you don't want me to watch the ball, you can go get it out of the ocean.
And welcome to the show to be named later, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, we only got a couple more shows, I believe, as a show to be named later. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is the second to last show to be named later, but that does not mean the show is over. It means in 2021
later is coming.
We're making a New Year's resolution early, and we're going to accomplish it early. We're going to name the show.
We are. We've been the show to be named later for a little over a year now. People have been asking us, when is later? Well, later is 2021.
Yeah, about 15 months. That's when we named the show, and finally we will do it. It legit took us that long to get a better name than that.
To be fair, it's not like we really made much effort. Like, we kind of just rolled with it for as long as this has been. And then one day you came to me, you're like, hey, I got a name. And I was like, all right, that works. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it's a very, very good name, especially for our show.
I like it. Yeah.
So if we are going to change it, it's good that if we are going to name it, it's good that this is this one. But yeah, this is our second to last show under the show to be named later.
Wow.
So, enjoy
What is this, episode 79?
79, yeah.
Yes. We're gonna end off on a nice round number then, so that's good.
Yes, that is true. I was not expecting this much news to be happening around the holidays, but two very big deals went down. One bigger than the other, but we'll start off chronologically with Josh Bell, a 2019 All-Star, who has definitely fell off kind of dramatically since then. First baseman for the Pirates was traded to the Nationals for two top six prospects in the Nationals system, although the Nationals farm system isn't that deep, so they are not top 100 prospects in Major League Baseball. However, they do seem to have a decent resume. But yeah, Josh Bell, when we kind of talked about the corner infield problem with the Nationals a few weeks ago, Josh Bell will be filling in at first base for the Nationals. Yeah.
So Josh Bell, this happened on Christmas Eve, right as people were wrapping their presents. Nationals were getting a good one. Pirates, as on the other hand, I think this was expected. Like, they really have no direction right now. This was probably the biggest trade asset that they had, even if his stock has never been lower than it is right now. You trade this guy. He came up as the top prospect in your system, had a really grand opening with a grand slam in one of the first games that he played in. One thing that I'd like to note, pretty recently and just over the course of his career, he's had noticeably pretty good numbers on the road, particularly last year. So I think that Pittsburgh was kind of just a big cause of his fallout. In 2020, Josh Bell played 29 games at home and slashed 180, 270, 270, 540. In 27 games at home, 115 plate appearances, he never recorded. The only extra base hits he recorded were home runs. There was 2 of them. Not very good. On the road, 274, 343, 463, 806. So he was noticeably better on the road than he was when he was playing in Pittsburgh. So I found that interesting. I'm glad for his sake that he's getting out of PNC Park, because clearly that was just a plague to him. And this has been a thing for most of his career too. In his career at home, he's a 246 batting average with a 767 OPS. And then his road stats is a 275 average with a 859 OPS. So one of the biggest questions is that if Josh Bell could could benefit from a change of scenery or not. I think it's pretty obvious. Yeah, he's 100% going to be better in 2021 than he has been over the past I guess, year and a half between the second half of 2019 and all of 2020.
Yeah, PNC Park is, I mean, I think it's sort of more of a pitcher's park. So I guess, maybe not that drastically, but it would make sense that maybe he would struggle at home. But yeah, I guess it is good to see him out of there. Also, something to consider, it's good to see him on a competitive team. Maybe he is, one of those players where it's hard to produce when you're on a team that's fighting for the number one draft pick instead of a playoff spot. So maybe that could be a change of scenery that's necessary for him. But, he's, obviously he came up as a number one prospect or, like a top prospect in their system. So he's obviously has the potential. When he hits the ball, he hits it hard. So obviously there's that. It's just about, the mental and, I guess minor adjustments that you have to make that maybe the Nationals can fix. So, it should be a positive for the Nationals. The two prospects that they traded off, Eddie Yeen is now number 7 in the Pirates system. And I'm trying to find the other guy.
Will Crow.
He doesn't show up. Okay. Yeah, Will Crow is 17th in the Pirate system. So, I mean, I don't know how much of an impact.
What are their expected times of arrival?
What did you say?
What are their ETAs? When do they come into the majors?
Eddie Yeen. Okay, Eddie Yeen is 2023, so he will probably rise.
So that's probably a guy that can build himself up and become a bigger name by the time he reaches the majors.
Yeah, Will Crow, meanwhile, estimated time of arrival is 2021. And
I'm pretty sure Will Crow's already pitched.
Oh, yeah, and he's also 26 right now. Eddie Yeen's a teenager. He's 19.
Wow.
So, yeah, Eddie Yeen is probably the headliner there. In terms of the prospect load that was brought back. So he could possibly develop into a nice prospect, and maybe with different general management they might be able to develop him in that system. But I'm looking at what MLB.com has looks at him as, and says his fastball touches 97, and I guess as he grows, he could still probably improve upon that. Maybe top out near 100.
So Will Crow pitched 8 1/3 innings with the Nationals in 2020. Did not go very well, to say the least. He had an ERA of 11.88, but he actually did get lucky. His FIP was 12.31. So not a lot of success so far. Obviously, it's only the first 8 innings of his career. That's not fair to judge by. He's going into his age 26 season, so I guess we'll have to see what happens there. The Pirates don't have a lot of depth in their rotation. I'm not sure if he was a starter or a reliever. He started 3 games, so that's probably a guy that they can slide into that like 5 spot in the rotation. They could probably hope that something sticks, especially with Tyon coming back next year. Like that's, he's going to be hit or miss coming off of his second Tommy John surgery if he's even on the team. So you're going to need something to stick there.
Yeah, that's true. And in the last paragraph of the MLB.com prospects thing for Eddie Yeen, it says, with his stuff, size, and delivery, Yeen looks every bit the part of a future big league starter. While conditioning will be a major focus in the young right-hander's development going forward, it looks like he has the requisite athleticism to make it all work. So, they're kind of optimistic that he'll probably be maybe a 2-3 starter, and with enough development, maybe could be like a 1 guy. I don't know. It's hard to judge because he is a teenager, and we're not really big people who like follow the farm system hardcore. Like we have we have general knowledge, but nothing too crazy.
So just this overall, this deal is hard to judge, or at least to give bad judgments on other sides. I think both teams did what they needed to do. Josh Bell only has 2 years left of control, and suffice to say, the Pirates aren't going to be contending in the next 2 years, so you might as well get him out at some point. The only issue is that you could say that they got him out at the wrong time. His stock was never lower, but the stock may never have been this high, so may never be that high again, I should say. So, Josh Bell, he's going on a team where he's going to be in a better position as far as contending wise. He's going to be out of the ballpark that he's been suffering in. And he's going to be an upgrade for the Nationals over Eric Thames. He only had a low 6 OPS last year at first base. And then Josh Bell, not that he was much better, but still going to be an upgrade.
Yeah, that's very true. And, it's a hope to see him get to that, first half 2019 level. And even before that, every year of his career before last year consisted of an OPS plus of 108 or better, meaning 8% above league average or better. So that's, I guess, something to be optimistic about, but definitely not on the best trend. And, if anything is going to work out for the Pirates, it might be Eddie Yeen. I don't know. He's a 19-year-old guy. There's not really much to say about him quite yet. But yeah, anything more on this deal?
I'm looking at Eddie Yeen's page right here. Obviously, he hasn't pitched since 2019. Definitely there's room for improvement as far as his minor league statistics, but that's hard to go by when he's a teenager. A 4.7 ERA.
Yeah.
Pretty good strikeout numbers, I guess. But other than that, not too much popping out here. But regardless, I mean, he's 19 years old, and there's always potential there. So.
Yeah, and he hasn't pitched since he was 18, I believe.
Yes.
Got signed from the Dominican when he was probably 16, like a bunch of players.
Yeah, he was born on June 25th, 2001.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, he last pitched when he was 18. Last pitched, in actual games. But yeah, I guess that is the Josh Bell trade. It's really a lot of speculation of, what could be, what will be. Not really much to say about it, but a deal where we have a lot more of an idea of how things may go. So the Padres have been making deals and actually might be making another one, according to some reports. High sources, might be happening on the day of this recording. If something does happen, we might have to hop on later and talk about it for 10-15 minutes.
I'll be checking Twitter throughout the show just in case.
Yeah. If that deal goes down, it's going to be insane for sure. But Blake Snell, first thing that happened today, it happened about 1 o'clock this morning or something like that.
It was like 12:30 in the morning, something like that. Yeah.
Blake Snell was traded to the Padres for a big time prospect haul. The Rays weren't giving him up easy at all. Luis Patino going to the Rays, also Francisco Mejia, Cole Wilcox, Blake Hunt, and Luis Patino is the number 3 prospect in the Padres system.
That's correct, because Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams.
Yeah, and Francisco Mejia is number 7, and Cole Wilcox.
No. Francisco Mejia is not a prospect.
Oh, okay. Cole Wilcox is number 7, and Blake Hunt is number 14 in the San Diego system. And that's no slouch of a system. That's very good. That's a very good farm system to be had. And yeah, I mean, it could either team could really win this, and I feel like a lot of people are leaning Rays so far in terms of who might win this one, who might win this trade.
See, the one thing that I'm very iffy about is Francisco Mejia. He's been in the league for 3 to 4 years now. He hasn't really shown much. He was a big name prospect coming up. I remember in 2016, I believe he had a 40-game hit streak in the minors, something like that. So a lot of people were really looking forward to him, and he hasn't really panned out with Cleveland or with San Diego. And maybe the Rays can fix him. That is certainly possible, but I think that might be the weakest link out of the four. But certainly Luis Patino, that's the number 23 overall prospect, I believe, according to MLB.com. So that's obviously a big deal. You don't see prospects of that caliber getting dealt every day. The last one I can think of is like Yohan Moncada and Michael Kopech in the sale trade from years ago. Maybe I'm missing some, but I mean, those are the most highly touted prospects that I can think of in recent times.
I don't know when Cease and Jimenez got traded, how highly regarded was like Dylan Cease?
Oh, Jimenez was probably above Cease at the time.
Yeah, because like I don't think Cease was on everyone's radar as much back in 2017.
I know when Eloy came up, he was at like a top 5 prospect, but I don't know if he was that high when he got traded.
Yeah, so in hindsight, maybe those two, but not at the time.
Not at the time, certainly. But Patino is obviously a big deal. He's going to Tampa Bay, and Cole Wilcox and Blake Hunt. They're both pretty young, so I guess we'll tell with time what they pan out to be. But certainly Luis Patino is a big deal in this trade. That was one that I was pretty surprised to see. But nonetheless, you are getting 3 years of Blake Snell.
Yeah. So, Blake Snell doesn't need that much of an introduction. One 2018 Cy Young, did not have a great year, was kind of injured in 2019, and then definitely rebounded this year in 2020, had a 3.24 ERA, pitched well in the playoffs.
We all know how that ended, but
yeah.
And by the way, I think that had a lot to do with this move, because I don't know if you saw, but Blake Snell liked a tweet like immediately after the news was put out that said like, and looks like the last image we'll ever have of Snell in a Rays uniform is him getting taken out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot that probably may have happened behind closed doors. We might never know that. Blake Snell is known to be one who's pretty outspoken, so maybe on a rainy day, we'll hear some more details about that. But regardless, San Diego, can we expect them to make a run at the division here?
I mean, at this point, I don't really see why not. I mean, like, definitely a run. I mean, they're definitely a favorite to be in the playoffs for sure, and probably be, if the Dodgers win the division, they'll probably be the best team to not win their division. And depending on the playoff format, if it's a traditional playoff format since 2012, they'd probably be a favorite to get like
the home wild card game.
The home wild card game.
Yeah.
But I don't see why a run isn't possible. It's just the Dodgers are so good.
The only thing you can hope for is World Series hangover.
Yeah.
Because like the Dodgers are the measuring stick in baseball. It's like, well, you think you're good, well, look at this team. Are you better than this team? That's what the Padres are up against for the next, however long this window is, because a lot of their key players they have a lot of control over. Snell's there till 2023, Clevenger until 2022. Manny Machado signed, what was it, a 10-year deal with them. Tatis, I believe, is 4 more years pending an extension. Jake Cronenworth had his rookie year this year. A lot of these players that are on the Padres still have a lot of control. So they have a legit championship window for the next 2 to 3 years. But the Dodgers are going to be standing in the way. And it's a shame, because if they were in any other division, they would be a lock right now. Like, if they were in the NL Central, like, that team is winning by 25 games.
Yeah, they are. And, we talk about, like, you can only hope for World Series hangover. And also, this is the year where a World Series hangover will be, like, the least, like, a team is least affected by a playoff run.
Because they weren't allowed to actually have the champagne celebrations. They weren't allowed to have a parade. There's a lot of factors that weren't necessarily in that World Series.
And, only a 60-game season. So they only ultimately ended up playing around 80 total as opposed to, 180.
Yeah.
So that's a factor for sure. But yeah, the Padres, they had the second best record in the National League last year. And I mean, I kind of put them in terms of a parallel. I put them like up there with the Braves right now in terms of talent in the National League.
Yeah.
I mean, so their rotation basically right now for 2021 looks like Lamet, Snell, maybe Davies, I guess. In
Davies
there.
pending if he stays in a potential later trade. Chris Paddock also in there, and then Mackenzie Gore probably in there.
Yeah, so it's a good rotation and definitely a good lineup. We talked about one of the best infields in baseball. So yeah, they're extremely talented, and they have a good back end of the bullpen with Kirby Yates, Drew Pomeranz, and actually Kirby Yates is
free agent, I believe.
He's a free agent. Yeah, that's true. But also they got Emilio Pagan back there,
Craig Stammen.
Yeah,
they have plenty of guys.
Opened up for them last year. Yeah, they have a good bullpen. So yeah, very complete. And I guess maybe their weakest point was starting pitching, especially with Mike Clevenger being out.
Yeah, and Lamet being out for the playoffs too.
Yeah, Lamet being out for the playoffs, but for next year you got Lamet and Snell are an extremely respectable 1-2 punch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you're not going to have Clevenger because of his Tommy John surgery. But if you did, I mean, you're looking at 3 aces at the top of that rotation.
Yeah, for sure.
With Paddock having the potential to be an ace, and same with Gore.
Yeah, we've been talking about Paddock for the past couple of years. I feel like at some point he will break out. But yeah, my question is with Snell is, the Rays definitely, and it was most evident in the playoffs, but the playoffs are the playoffs. I'm wondering if, and the Rays were, sort of careful with Blake Snell. Blake Snell did not pitch 6+ innings in any game in 2020. I'm wondering if the Padres will be willing to extend him more and let him pitch more, let him get in these situations and, maybe go 6-7+.
And to that,
unlike the Rays.
And to that, I say, look at what they did in the National League Division Series against the Dodgers, right? You had Mike Clevenger out there saying, hey, I don't care, when he had been injured. And obviously it didn't work out for them, but regardless, they let their own guy decide for them. And Blake Snell is going to be that guy too. Blake Snell is going to be the guy that says, yeah, give me the ball. Let me go 7. Let me go 8. Let me even finish the game. So I do think that they will extend him under Snell's own will. And Blake Snell is certainly going to be willing to put himself back out on that mound for the 7th, 8th inning and beyond.
Yeah, and I think, the Rays could do that with Snell because their bullpen was so deep, especially last year with, Fairbanks, Castillo, Nick Anderson, all those guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of the last point I had with Blake Snell. Most people know how good he really is and how good he can be. Do we want to move on to the second addition the Padres made today?
I want to look at this from the Rays perspective for a little bit, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So the Rays are going to be losing two of their key starting pitching assets from the last couple of years. They already lost Charlie Morton to the Braves in free agency. Now they're losing Blake Snell to a trade. You need Tyler Glasnow to perform more than you ever have before. But Chris, how do you see them rebounding from this? Because they've already signed Michael Wacha, which, I mean, for whatever it's worth, I mean, it's not anywhere near those two. But how do you expect them to replace those guys?
Well, I don't think this guy's on Snell's level necessarily, but Yanni Chirinos was out for the entire year last year. He will be coming back. He had a good year in 2019. I'm trying to see what his exact numbers were, but he was a very respectable back half of the rotation kind of guy. Yeah, Chirinos had a 3.85 ERA in 133 and a third innings for the Rays in 2019, and a 115 ERA plus, a strikeout to walk ratio of more than 4. Had a bit of a home run problem, but yeah, I mean, Glasnow definitely has to take the step up. We've talked about Glasnow a little bit in, he didn't have the greatest ERA last year. His expected ERA was actually a lot lower. He struggled in the playoffs, but he should be reliable for an entire 162 game season as long as it doesn't get injured. So I guess that's a decent number one to have. But yeah, that depth is missing, because right now I'm thinking it's Glasnow, Chirinos, and I'm not sure, but it definitely puts the Rays a step back. I mean, I guess maybe they could put Patino in the starting role immediately. I guess
they don't know if he's going to be ready for it immediately.
Yeah, they don't know that for sure. But it's a step back for the Rays currently. In a 4-year stretch, maybe they could possibly win this trade ultimately. But they're historically good with trades, but for a 2021 setting, I think I was saying earlier that maybe the Rays could have won this trade, but in a 2021 scale,
you're not winning it next year.
You're not winning it for the next year. If they win this trade, it will be, it will be shown over a 4 or 5 year stretch, most likely. But yeah, losing Snell, losing Morton, I guess Morton was getting a little older anyway. But yeah, you're losing a guy who's, probably entering the prime of his career. It might have been a thing with him and the team. And I mean, I guess, I don't know. He's making $11 million a year, which for the Rays might be a lot, but the Rays should be able to rebound like they usually do, but it definitely will make things harder for them, no doubt.
It's definitely, if they go into the playoffs next year, you're looking at a 3-man rotation of, I guess, Tyler Glasnow, Yanni Chirinos, and Ryan Yarbrough, which is not nearly as encouraging as what you for.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if there was a Yankees rematch, I'd feel a lot better about it this time around if I was New York.
Yeah, because we did talk about, like, how if the Yankees lose DJ LeMahieu, how that would affect their chances at the division. Well, it helped. It's definitely helped by Blake Snell going to the Padres, getting out of that division, for sure. And I was thinking, what was the last thing I was going to say? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Patino maybe could be a starter. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it definitely changes things. And I guess maybe the Rays could make more moves throughout the offseason. It is, especially for this offseason, early in the offseason, not a lot of moves have been made. So maybe we'll see something more out of the Rays to add to the rotation. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a step back for them. But yeah, do we want to talk about Ha-Seong Kim?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ha-Seong Kim, a
Korean
man on the
baseball
left
star.
side of the infield, we'll say, from the Korean baseball organization, also went to the Padres today. And you have more on Ha-Seong Kim than I do, for sure.
Yeah, so he was pretty legit last year and was just recently in general in the KBO. In 2020, he had 30 home runs and a 921 OPS. Really, I don't know. You have to wonder if it's going to convert or not, but that's okay. He also has a 142 weighted runs created plus over the last 2 seasons, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, that's 42% above average, regardless of what league you're in. So that will probably translate nicely into the MLB. I mean, if it's just a little worse and it's like 120, that's still more than acceptable. And one thing that really surprised me here, Chris, he's going into his age 25 season. He's young. Like normally when, the MLB brings in these like Japanese or Korean imports, they're usually like between the ages of 27 and 30. Like I think Ichiro was 27 when he came over. This guy is young. Like he hasn't even hit his prime yet, you could argue.
Traditionally, yeah, like a guy like him, his prime would be, around when he turns 27. I mean, in terms of, and we have it in the prep sheet, where does he fit in the lineup? Him being an infielder it does pop off on the screen because, we talked about they have a very good infield. They've got Hosmer, Cronenworth, who, was top 3 in the Rookie of the Year. Fernando Tatis, who was, I think, top 5 in the MVP voting, and Manny Machado, who's top 3 in the MVP voting. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't know what his experience could be at second base, and maybe be a platoon guy with Cronenworth. And also, if, we don't know if the NL will have pitchers hitting or not, or if they'll have a DH, he could definitely be a quality pinch hitter once the pitcher's out of the game, if they have pitchers hitting again.
So he does bat right-handed, so it would make sense for him to platoon with Cronenworth because he's a lefty. But think about this, Chris. What if the Padres sent Cronenworth to the Cubs and got an asset from the Cubs to add to another spot on the roster?
That would be wild if they were able to pull that move off, where
it would make sense. Like Cronenworth has 5 years worth of control. He just finished second in the Rookie of the Year. The Cubs need future pieces. That's a good one. Like that could be a centerpiece. And it's not a bad loss for the Padres if you can plug Kim in at Cronenworth's position.
Yeah, if they were able to sign or trade for Snell, sign a second baseman, and then ship off their second baseman for Yu Darvish, who, a Cy Young runner-up last year, that would be an absolutely insane turn of events. But
you could probably, the Padres have 3 top 100 prospects that aren't Mackenzie Gore. If you really wanted to, you could trade Yu Darvish for Cronenworth and one of those 3, and I think that would work.
Yeah, because
the only thing is you'd probably have to assume some of his salary because Yu Darvish is getting paid pretty handsomely. What was his deal that he signed before 2018? I believe he only has 2 years left of control, but still.
Yeah, Yu Darvish.
No, he has 3 years left of control. Never mind.
Yeah, he signed a
6 years, 126 mil. Okay, so you're gonna pay him around 20 mil a year. Well, at least that's his contract, but maybe you could split that. So like you could 50-50 split it with the Cubs. There, where you're paying him 10 mil a year. That's still not a bad deal for San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if the Cubs would compromise that much. Maybe they'd give the Padres $5 million because he did just, it's not like David Price where he had like a semi-decent year the year before. Darvish, Cy Young runner-up.
Second in the Cy Young voting. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, you could split it like that. Also, one of my favorite things ever, just in general, kind of off topic, but Yu Darvish is the all-time leader in strikeouts per 9 on Baseball Reference.
Oh yeah, that always changes. I know it was Chris Sale at some point, but
now it's Yu Darvish.
Yu Darvish.
It's 11.1.
Yep, how the game changes.
Just think about it. The all-time, there have been 150 years in baseball history. Nobody has more strikeouts per 9 than Yu Darvish.
Every day when Yu Darvish steps on that mound, we're witnessing history.
We are. An all-time great.
Is he going to raise that all-time strikeout per 9 mark?
Yeah, no, there's literally, if you look at his Baseball Reference page, there is a gold spot over that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's truly wild. But yeah, I guess, yeah, now that you bring that up, if Cronenworth maybe gets dealt for Yu Darvish, you fill that spot right in with Ha-Seong Kim.
Exactly. I mean, there aren't any reports right now that I've seen of what exactly the deal is, how many years it is, what the average annual value is. I'm gonna assume it's like maybe 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah,
Maybe it's more than that because he is young.
yeah, it seems safe. If it's longer, it's probably less. It's probably less money. But yeah,
Mhm.
we'll see.
I've looked for reports. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard with that. But yeah, I mean, that could ultimately be the plan there for San Diego. But we'll see. I mean, any updates so far on on Yu Darvish?
Not that I've seen. Who would be on it? Like Passon broke the Snell news last night, but I don't think he'd be bringing this one because I think it was Heyman said that like the talks are like, what did he say? Darvish.
Close.
Okay, this is a quote from John Heyman on Twitter, at John Heyman. Darvish deal to Padres appears close. Talks revolve around for two. Personal catcher Victor Caratini likely joining him to San Diego. Cubs trying for some MLB experience in return, including needed pitching. So I think one name that's been thrown around is Zach Davies. I believe that is one starting pitcher with experience that could be thrown around. Which, I mean, obviously, if that's the deal, that does kind of change the complexities of it because now you're adding, Yu Darvish and his personal catcher. It's a package deal. So you are going to need a little more than what I said, but I think Jake Cronenworth would be a good centerpiece to go along with Zach Davies.
Yeah, I mean, if even if you get rid of Davies, if they were able to get Lamet, it would be a Lamet or maybe Darvish, Lamet, Snell. I mean,
and then Clevenger.
And then Clevenger in 2022, and then you're developing Mackenzie Gore, who's been a top 10 prospect for a few years.
An absolute machine of a rotation to go along with a really good lineup.
Yeah. If this happens, I would chalk the Padres up for winning the division in the next 3 years for sure, maybe 2 years, but we'll see. At least one of these next 3 years, I'd chalk it up for the Padres if they can get a Darvish deal done. It would be incredible. But yeah, do we have anything more on the news of baseball? A lot of implications happening this past week, surprisingly.
Nothing that I can really think of.
Well, it has come to our attention now. We started our podcast recording at around 7, ended around 8. It is currently 9:53 p.m. And Yu Darvish has just been dealt to the Padres. Him and Victor Caratini have been dealt to the Padres for 5 prospects.
Yeah.
Not a lot of eye-popping type guys, but it sort of makes sense because Darvish has about $20 million a year to be paid still. So in a way, it's sort of like a free agent signing in a way. Like if the Padres signed him for 3 years, $59 million. But this is huge news.
Yeah. So Yu Darvish has just been dealt to the San Diego Padres, like Chris mentioned, with his personal catcher, Victor Caratini. Multiple sources reporting this. Bob Nightingale had it a couple hours ago. That was in the final stages, but now Mark Feinsand, Jeff Passan, personal friend of the show, and some others are reporting that it's official. Darvish is expected to go to the Cubs with Victor Caratini, to the Padres for Caratini. Zach Davies will be going to the Cubs, which makes sense. The Cubs need starting pitching, especially if they're going to be giving away Yu Darvish. And Zach Davies is in a contract year. He's been all right, Chris. We've had some talks about him. You've discussed his expected ERA a lot and how it's not exactly similar to his actual ERA. But more importantly, the 4 prospects here are outfielder Owen Cassie, shortstop Reggie Preciado, outfielder Ismail Mena, and Yisan Santana, I believe. And on MLB.com, they are the 11, 13, 15, and 16 prospects in the Padres system. A good system, by the way. And that's kind of what surprised me because this is a guy who was a Cy Young runner-up last year. Since the second half of 2019, he is the fourth best FWAR among pitchers in the majors. He's only behind Jacob deGrom, Shane Bieber, and Garrett Cole. So this is obviously legit. He also led the majors in FIP last season. So I don't believe, are any of these people, I don't know if any of the prospects are top 100. Or at least not on MLB.com.
No, because the Padres, I would guess, do not have 11 prospects in the top 100.
Not on MLB.com. Maybe on a different site, but on MLB.com, none of them. Point is, if you're going to not get a top 10 organizational guy for Yu Darvish, the only explanation is that the Padres are assuming all of, or at least a ton of that contract that's remaining, because this is a salary jump in a pandemic for the Cubs. You know, we've been expecting for a while that salary jumps are going to be big during the pandemic with the financial losses. And the Cubs, you know, Theo Epstein resigned this year, and we kind of knew that they were going to be shifting their directions a little. And I think this is the biggest sign that they're looking to move on because, I mean, one point that we made is that we don't think there's anyone on the Cubs currently that really is going to have a career year in 2021. Like all the guys on that roster, you look at them, they're all past their prime. Like Bryant may be better. I mean, Bryant's probably on the way out if Darvish is, but Bryant's probably not going to be able to replicate 2016 ever again. Rizzo's probably not going to be able to replicate 2016. Baez will probably be able to never replicate 2018. It's not really going uphill for anyone on this team. Anyway, if you're not going to get a top 10 prospect in one of the best farm systems in baseball for Yu Darvish, this is a salary dump. Like the Padres gave up virtually nothing here. This is awesome for them. From their side of things, the only thing is, you know, they're gonna have to pay some money, which is, you know what, it's all right.
Yeah, it's basically, you know, I remember when Giancarlo Stanton got traded, you know, there wasn't really much of a return because it was basically a free agent signing. This is basically a 3-year, $59 million deal for the Padres, and you know they gave up some of their lesser known prospects. I mean, I guess with those prospects, you know, we look at the ages from Jeff Passan's tweet. There's an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old.
Yeah, these are future pieces.
So, you know, they may not be top 10 in the Padres system now, but, you know, you never find like a 17-year-old in a top 100 MLB.
No, unless it's Wander Franco.
Unless it's Wander Franco.
Who happens to be number 1 in the world.
Yeah.
No, these are obviously very, very young prospects, and probably all 4 of them very well could be top 10 at one point before they make it to the majors. But this is obviously, the Cubs are not going to win this trade anytime soon. Like we mentioned earlier, I believe with the Josh Bell trade. This is, or maybe it was the
Snell deal.
It was the Snell deal, yeah. Anyway, the Padres, they're going to have a rotation of Snell, Darvish, and Lamet. That's 3 aces, and then you go into 2022, and you add Clevenger. That's 4 aces in one rotation.
Yeah, and then you see how Mackenzie Gore works out.
Exactly. This is huge. Like they're going from, who did they start? They started. Chris Paddock is like probably scratching his head right now, saying, "Where's my spot on this team right now?" I mean, obviously he's going to get Clevenger's spot next year, but Chris Paddock has this year to prove himself.
Yeah, this is a big year for him.
Because I mean, I guess worst case scenario they could just put him in the bullpen, but I don't think that's what Chris Paddock wants. Like that guy has a competitive edge. Like he has that type of personality. We've seen it all the time before. He's not going to want to give up that rotation spot. And it's a good problem for the Padres to have, honestly, because you have a lot of fallback options if he doesn't work out the way you want him to.
Yeah, and now I'm looking at the Cubs rotation. Yeah, it's pretty much rebuild mode. They got Kyle Hendricks, and really that's about it.
The Cubs are going to With the addition of Zach Davies, they're gonna have like the least amount of fastball velocity ever with Hendricks, Mills, Lester, Davies. Like they're not gonna throw a single pitch above 90 miles an hour this year.
I guess they did. Yeah, they did get Davies in there, but
He doesn't throw that hard. Darvish does.
I was looking at the rotation.
Actually, they don't even have Lester. They don't even have Lester. He's a free agent.
Yeah,
Cancel
Lester is a free agent, but
Yes.
yeah, in terms of their rotation, it's like it's Hendricks, Davies,
Mills and Davey.
Mills.
Yeah. That's not, I mean, yeah, that's not inspiring. The NL Central, nobody wants to win the NL Central, apparently.
Yeah, that's true. And
Nobody wants to win.
guess who's leading the league in ground ball percentage next year?
Probably the Cubs.
It's your north side of Chicago.
I would hope it is. Yu Darvish has always been one of the best at walk prevention. That was something I addressed early last season when we did our predictions because I talked about his strikeout rate and his walk rate. So I wonder where the Padres as a team ranked in 2020 with walks.
Yeah, Yu Darvish also, by the way, I was looking earlier. If you don't know how good he has been, so since July 12th of 2019, which is the beginning of the first half, or the beginning of the second half of 2019, Yu Darvish is fourth in FWAR and ERA.
Yeah.
Among all MLB pitchers, and he's second in FIP.
And he's I think he's even better in FIP too.
Yeah, he's second in FIP behind DeGrom.
Yeah. The Padres had the fifth best walk rate.
That's good to see. But yeah,
the Padres had the fifth best walk rate in 2020. So the rich are getting richer there.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, Yu Darvish did that, has been doing that since the beginning of the second half in 2019. That's over 150 innings. So not that much of a small sample size. He's figured it out. He had, big time problems in 2018 and the beginning of 2019, but ever since then, it's been a huge, nothing but success for him. And yeah, now he's pretty much the ace of the pot. Him and Lamet are gonna duke it out for the opening day spot. But
yeah, let me ask you this: when do you think we are calling this the Padres division to lose? Like at what point? I don't think we're going to be doing it before the season starts, but at what point in the season would you be able to confidently say that this is the Padres division to lose?
If they have a division lead above 3 at the All-Star break, I would guess it's theirs to lose.
Probably. All right. This probably means that they're out on Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, because
unless he really sticks to his 1-year deal thing.
Yeah, this is we addressed it. Like Darvish is basically a free agent signing if they're taking all the money there. And the Padres, they're shout out to the Padres, by the way. They're spending their money for sure. Getting another guy, getting another, guy making like $20 million a year. Darvish is making about $20 million a year over the next 3 years. And then, they signed Hosmer, they signed Machado. They're definitely in it to win it. But yeah, Bauer seems like a long shot for the Padres if they wanted to do that. But this was, it lined up better for the Padres to get Darvish. And I feel like between Darvish and Bauer right now, it's sort of a coin flip in terms of like who you want there.
Hang on a second. Yu Darvish. I need to find his Twitter. He just sent out a tweet. How do you spell like his Twitter handle?
It's like Fari.
Okay, I got it. So he just tweeted. It's in Japanese. So obviously, okay. Anyway, the translation on this Yu Darvish tweet from 8 minutes ago says information that seems to have confirmed my trade came out from a leading source, but my cell phone does not ring. What kind of system is it? Which that's probably a loose translation. That's probably not accurate, but Yu Darvish has not gotten a phone call yet.
That's pretty
That's
insane.
wild. That's wild. I mean, you can't blame the media for that. Like your job, if you're Jed Hoyer, is to be like, hey, listen, man. I feel it's weird for me to say, listen, you. Um, you're going to San Diego now. Like, I mean, obviously that's not necessarily how it goes down, but regardless, how do you not tell like his agent or like someone involved that he's being traded?
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty crazy to think about, but that's yeah, that's wild. But
That's so bad. Yeah,
yeah,
Davies is in a contract year, like I mentioned. Chris, what did you say his expected ERA was?
it was over 5. I think it was
Yeah.
501.
Yeah, and he's got 1 year left.
Yeah, I mean, he normally when he was with the Brewers, Davies was a guy who was like high threes ERA usually.
Yep.
For the most part, I wouldn't expect him to have an ERA around 5, but I wouldn't expect him to have an ERA below 3 either. Long term. Yeah, his career ERA is 3.79 and 683 and 2/3 innings pitched. That's a 114 ERA plus, which is 14% above league average. So, I mean, you're getting a quality middle of the rotation guy.
More development on this phone thing. Kenta Maeda just responded to Yu Darvish and said the same thing happened with him when he was traded from the Dodgers to the Twins.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
he didn't hear the call, and then Yu Darvish responded saying, "Yeah, like what is this system?" Yeah, wow, that's interesting. That anyway, Baseball Reference had projected Zach Davies to have a 3.78 ERA next year, 12-10 record, 7.6 strikeouts per nine, 3.1
one
walks
thing that
per
should
nine,
be
which isn't
noted
very
is
good.
his strikeouts per nine, career high in strikeouts per nine last year with 8.2.
And that's in a shortened season.
Yeah, it had never been before 7.4 before. So
yeah,
maybe the Padres worked with him on being able to put guys away.
But overall, like Davies isn't bad. I mean, he has a 1.14 ERA plus. Obviously, the expected ERA isn't great, but I still think, I mean, he's probably not a good expected ERA guy with his pitching style. Like he's a ground ball guy.
Yeah, but I mean the what I like about expected ERA is it does account for, the expected batting average and the exit velocity and all that. I'm trying to look at his whiff percentage if it maybe went
Probably
up.
Isn't great.
But I'm guessing it has been better. It was better this year than most years. 2020 it was 2020 had his best whiff percentage since his rookie year where he barely even pitched. So yeah, 25.5% whiff percentage.
MLB deleted their tweet about the Padres getting Darvish because of his tweet.
Wait, what? What happened?
The MLB sent out a tweet with like jersey swaps of Snell and Darvish on the Padres. They deleted it because of Yu Darvish's tweet.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Huh. So I guess I was dead wrong on. I mean, obviously, I didn't know that this is the approach that they were taking with the salary, but this is much better for the Padres than giving up Jake Cronenworth and a top 100 prospect.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess final thing I'll say on Zach Davies is the same thing kind of happened for Zach Davies in 2019 in terms of ERA versus expected ERA. And the rest of his career, it's kind of back and forth, but maybe it's a trend. I mean, even last year, like his hard hit percentage wasn't very high. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look at the tape because Baseball Savant is so good with that for Zach Davies. But
Right.
if you just look at the on the surface stats, I mean, I guess it could work out pretty well for the Cubs. But he'll probably, his ERA will probably end up in the mid to high threes, which I guess is good. But you're giving up an ace.
So the Padres have made 3 big moves in the last 24 hours.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
It's wild. Yeah, you don't really see that.
Yeah, I mean,
And
AJ, you haven't seen this. I can't wait for the sequel of that press conference that they did in 2015 with like Justin Upton, Will Myers, and Will Middlebrooks, and there was one more.
Well, Upton, Myers, and Matt Kemp.
Yeah, no, was Matt? I think Matt Kemp was separate. Oh, was it? No, maybe it was Kemp. Maybe it was Derek. I think it might have been Derek Norris actually. Hang on a second. I have this picture pulled up.
Yeah, none of these were like free agents that were already in Major League Baseball. Trades in a international.
I remember that day too. I remember that day. That was when that was when Trey Turner got traded, which I mean that ended up working out for them anyway. Yeah, wow. What a group there. I think that's Derek Norris.
Well, anyway, that's those are our thoughts on Yu Darvish. Luckily, it didn't.
Those are our gut reactions. We were just finding out kind of about that almost live.
Yeah, the initial tweet was by Mark Feinsand, right? So
that was the one I sent you. Yeah.
That was
I mean, Nightingale had it kind of first, but it was close. That wasn't official.
Yeah, Feinsand sent
Heyman
that
just
out.
tweeted. Heyman just tweeted, Darvish deal agreed to pending medical records could be finalized by tomorrow, but the trade is official.
Yes, Feinsand sent that out 39 minutes ago, and we started recording about 20 minutes ago. So yeah, this is as big a gut reaction as you could get, pretty much.
Yes.
So yeah, there is the Yu Darvish deal, and all our thoughts on it. And now, where are we gonna place this in the show? I guess we're talking about Scott Rolen now. Maybe we'll see how
possibly. I don't know. Maybe we already did.
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I would put it in after we finish the Padres stuff.
Yep. All right. So anyway, on to Scott Rolen. But now we will get into our bubble case of the week, which we've done every week for the past 5 weeks. I think this is our 6th bubble case. We've done Bobby Abreu, Mark Burley, Todd Helton, Andrew Jones, and Jeff Kent. This week we are doing Scott Rolen, who has the highest wins above replacement, I think, of anyone we've talked about on both Baseball Reference and Fangraphs.
That is correct.
It's hard not to just point at the wins above replacement. I shamefully did not put him on my ballot last year because I just didn't look at it. I didn't look this deeply into the Hall of Fame and things of that nature. But now, especially quarantine helped that a lot, where I was able to basically study the Hall of Fame and look at all these bubble cases and be like, oh yeah, these guys make a lot more sense now that I look at it.
Do you remember exactly who you voted for last year?
I think I put only 6 guys on. I think it was Bonds, Clemens, Schilling. I put Sammy Sosa on,
and then Jeter Walker.
And Jeter Walker.
Okay.
Yeah, those were
cool. Because when we reveal them, when I do my ballots, I always keep track of who I'm adding, who I'm dropping from the previous year. So I'm glad you'll get to do that as well.
Yeah, I'll probably be adding 4 or 5 guys.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You'll
But,
have a Christmas tree of a ballot.
yes.
I added Scott Rolen to my ballot last year. Not that our ballots mean anything yet, but um, Scott Rolen is on my Hall of Fame ballot. And we're gonna tell you why, or maybe why you should avoid him possibly. But we'll be debunking the arguments as to why you shouldn't, because I do believe that Scott Rolen is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that much of a secret. And yeah, we always, have to be fair. We always put the case against, the case for. We'll be making a case for Vizquel at some point. We'll be doing Vizquel for the last week, and we're not going to be talking about the off the field stuff yet, even though there's a very solid reason not to vote for him, but we'll get more into the on the field stuff.
We'll let that play out.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, happens.
So Scott Rolen, we'll show you where he's at with the actual voters who actually matter. He got 10.2% of the vote in 2018. Then he rose up to 17.2% in 2019, and then all the way up to 35.2% in 2020. And so far this year, on 70 known ballots out of around 400, 55.7%, making a big jump. And I would expect him to be around possibly 50% this year, maybe getting half the votes, which is good to see. I think people are starting to realize what's going on, including myself. So when we look on the surface with Scott Rolen, he has 70.1 baseball reference wins above replacement, 69.9 Fangraphs wins above replacement, and baseball reference helps out with his stuff. His B-WAR is above average for a Hall of Fame third baseman. His peak WAR is 43.6. That is his best 7 seasons, according to B-WAR combined into one number. And that is above average for a Hall of Fame third baseman. His career quadruple slash line is 281, 364, 490, 855. And his OPS plus is 122. His weighted runs created plus is also 122. And he did all that in 8,518 career plate appearances. He has 21.2 defensive wins above replacement, which is 45th all time, top 50, which is very good for a guy that also was pretty above average offensively. And he had 180.3 defensive runs above average, which is 56th all time. That's the Fangraphs model for basically defensive value. Also on the surface, the count statistics: 2,077 hits for Scott Rolen, 316 home runs, 517 doubles, and 899 walks. He was the 1997 Rookie of the Year and a 2002 Silver Slugger Award winner. But he's not known for being the best with the bat, but he's known for being the best with the glove. 8-time Gold Glove winner was Mr. Scott Rolen. And, some players can make their case with the playoffs, add their playoff ability. Scott Rolen's kind of neutral or maybe even negative. He hit 220 with a 678 OPS in 159 plate appearances in the playoffs. Although when it mattered most, in the 2006 World Series, where the Cardinals won the World Series, he hit 421 with a 1213 OPS. So he was definitely a big part of that, and ended up being a World Series champion in 2006. So what do we take away from what we see with the on the surface statistics?
I mean, he was pretty much really good at everything. If anything, he could have been a little faster with stolen base statistics, but other than that, but he was the third base. You can't really expect that much. Nothing that really jumps out as not Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah, I mean,
like I guess some of the count statistics could be a little upped, but as far as his rate statistics, really good.
Yeah, that is the tough thing. Is we did talk about Andrew Jones earlier with the bubble case, it's a combined effort. So he was not excellent. He was not, excellent offensively, like a maybe Todd Helton, but he was very good offensively and he was very good defensively. And we think that ultimately kind of makes a great player. And also one thing I did see when when we did the on the surface stats, and I actually looked at his, slash line and OPS plus and his weighted runs created plus, if you added 20 20 defensive wins above replacement and 8 gold gloves to Jeff Kent's career, that's Scott Rolen. So
Yeah.
it's Scott Rolen is Jeff Kent with 8 gold gloves and masterful defense.
That was kind of the weakness we talked about with Jeff Kent last week, was that his defense was just subpar.
Yeah, just not something you see, not something you see out of a Hall of Fame second baseman who also is like, Rogers Hornsby would be the exception, who was, had like a 170 OPS plus. Most of those Hall of Fame second basemen are around like 120, just like Jeff Kent. They just were very good defensively as well. But anyway, back to Scott Rolen. Some comparisons to Scott Rolen. Here are a list of retired players with 68 to 72 B WAR in 7,500 to 9,500 plate appearances. Scott Rolen lies at 70.1 B WAR and around 8,500 plate appearances.
He's right smack dab in the middle, pretty much.
Yeah, smack dab in the middle. And it's important to note the plate appearances because, getting 70 B WAR and 8,500 plate appearances, he did that in a pretty short amount of time. It was pretty dominant. If you get 70 B WAR in like 12,000 plate appearances, it's not as dominant a run, most likely. But anyway, the list of players with that criteria, 68 to 72 B WAR in 7,500 to 9,500 plate appearances. So there's Bobby Grich, who is a first ballot drop. He's kind of a weird Hall of Fame scenario with him. Combined effort type of guy, like Scott Rolen. Alan Trammell, who is a Hall of Famer. Barry Larkin, who is a Hall of Famer. Ron Santo, who is a Hall of Famer. Gary Carter, who is a Hall of Famer. Ed Delahanty, who is a Dead Ball era Hall of Famer. Kenny Lofton, who is a first ballot drop. Edgar Martinez, who is a Hall of Famer. And Pee Wee Reese, who is a Hall of Famer. So it's mostly Hall of Fame type guys and guys who probably should have gotten more consideration for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Kenny Lofton being a first ballot drop. Same with Bobby Grich. Both crimes. Both should not have happened. I know Bobby Grich wasn't exactly a name when he played. Kenny Lofton definitely was. But they deserve some more consideration for sure. And I'm glad that Rolen is getting it.
Yeah, Bobby Grich, was he played in the 70s / early 80s. And he was kind of like Rolen, a combined effort type guy. I just think he didn't get the recognition because he didn't play his offensive and era. So he didn't get that like league adjusted statistics like Rolen did. So maybe we'll get a second or third look at Bobby Grich at some point in the future because that guy produced a lot of wins above replacement. So I'll get into the case against Scott Rolen. He finished top 10 in OPS and OPS plus only once. So he wasn't, necessarily dominant offensively, although he was, his career statistics are, we would say very good. 20% above average is very good, but did not finish top 10 in OPS plus very often. Only did it once. Also, he finished top 5 in B WAR and F WAR only once, and he finished top 10 in B WAR only 4 times. So you could argue that he was not in the best of the best while he played. There's an argument to be had there. And he only finished top 10 in the MVP once. Kind of goes with that dialogue. Also, Scott Rolen did not have the most longevity, and this, led to him not having the greatest count statistics. And, he played 17 years, which is good. He did get injured in some of those years. So, not exactly the most longevity. That's a query you could have with the Hall of Fame case. He was also not the marquee third baseman of his time. Chipper Jones was that guy. He wasn't not necessarily the guy at his position at his time. So that's a mark you could have against him. And, with the count statistics, 2,077 hits and 316 home runs are not traditional marks for a Hall of Fame position player. But now we get into the case for Scott Rolen.
So, we've mentioned the wins above replacement or not, and it's worth it. His WAR and his peak WAR were both above average for Hall of Fame third baseman, not just regular baseman. Hot corner members who are already in the Hall of Fame, Scott Rolen is above average in WAR and peak WAR. So let's talk about that peak WAR for just a second. From 1998 to 2004, Rolen trailed only Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez in FWAR. So in essence, Rolen was the best clean player in all of baseball from 1998 to 2004. That's pretty impressive considering the era he was playing in, which
albeit stretch too.
Albeit I just eliminated a lot of people by saying he was the best clean player. Regardless, he had 11 seasons of 4+ baseball reference WAR. There are 9 other retired players with exactly 11, and all of them are Hall of Famers. So he is among elite company there. Also, there are 5 players in baseball history who have produced at least 6 seasons, with 125 OPS plus and 1 DWAR, as well as 50 walks. They are Mike Schmidt, Willie Mays, Hannes Wagner, Wade Boggs, and Scott Rolen. Those are 4 no doubt Hall of Famers, and also Scott Rolen to be a part of that company for sure. Also, Scott Rolen is the only player in the live ball era that is since 1920 with 2,000 plus hits, a 120 OPS plus, and 20 plus DWAR. And if you were to take the 2,000 hits out of that, he becomes one of 5 players in baseball history and the only one since 1952 with a 120 OPS plus and 20 plus DWAR. Only player since 1952 to have that. Also, his 2004 season is the only in baseball history with 20 plus home runs, a 400 OBP, and 3 DWAR. And lastly, according to Fangraphs, he is the only third baseman in baseball history with an offensive rating above 250 and a defensive rating above 155. No one was that elite in both categories during their career at third.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we talk about him, it's like we're doing a history episode here with all the how about that's we have. It's pretty wild. And actually, one thing I would like to add in, I guess, the case for Scott Rolen is, I will mention with, a lot of these players, like Bobby Abreu was also a guy I talked about this with, was, he didn't finish, top 10 and wins above replacement very often, didn't finish top 5 very often. And I actually just looked at StatHead and filtered, so you can filter seasons by, how many guys fit a certain criteria. So you could see like what seasons had the most guys with 30 home runs. So I am looking at the seasons with the most players with 6+ wins above replacement. And the seasons with the most players with 6+ wins above replacement, number 1, 1998, which is when Rolen's peak started. Number 2, 2001, which is right in that peak, right in the middle of that peak for Scott Rolen. And number 3 is 2000. So we've talked about how there were so many great players during that day. So it's hard to kind of talk about a guy finishing top 5, top 10, because there were so many great players. It's hard to put it against like Scott Rolen for not finishing in the top 10 that often, especially when, this guy hasn't had any PED allegations against him. a lot of the guys he played with did have PED allegations against him. So, I don't think it's that big of a deal that he didn't finish like top 10 in B WAR and F WAR that often. But yeah, like, in the case for him, the combined effort of offense and defense, only legends really have had that kind of effort. Like, in this, 5 players in baseball history with at least 6 seasons of 125 OPS plus or better and 1+ defensive wins above replacement and 50+ walks. It's legends: Mike Schmidt, Willie Mays, Hannes Wagner, Wade Boggs, and then it's Scott Rolen.
Those three statistics that were listed there, those are all different facets of the game. Like, those 3 don't usually go together.
Yeah, I mean, like, the only,
except for like OPS plus and walks, but other than that, that's not a direct correlation.
Yeah, like the offense and the defense, you don't see it. You don't see, a combined effort like that much. And I think that's, the players like Rolen are the guys that get screwed. Like, there's a lot of those guys where, a combined, they weren't necessarily excellent offensively, and they weren't necessarily like a top 10 defender of all time, even though Scott Rolen was, top 50 according to D WAR. But, it's combined effort guys that kind of get screwed in terms of the Hall of Fame voting, like, Bobby Grich, Greg Nettles is another guy, Willie Randolph is another guy, and like Sal Bondo is in that mix. But, a guy who was, a guy who got traction last year was Omar Vizquel, who was very bad offensively, but excellent defensively, top 10 in D WAR all time, I think.
Yeah.
But, when you have a guy with a combined effort like Scott Rolen, doesn't really seem to get noticed as much.
It's very strange. Yeah. Like, he wasn't particularly dominant in any particular facet, but he was just really good at everything, but not enough for it to be like, a staple of recognition.
Yeah. Like, he never was never like winning batting titles, or was never, in the home run chase. It was just a guy where, really good at everything. And I think ultimately that makes a great player, and a player that should be in the Hall of Fame.
While we're recording this, Chris DeLuca of the Chicago Sun-Times just sent in his ballot, and he voted for Scott Rolen.
There we go. Shout out to Chris DeLuca.
In fact, he added Scott Rolen.
Oh, there we go.
We love to see it.
So that makes that probably rises his percentage to like 56% right now.
He's now netted plus 11, which is pretty good. I believe he was at a faster pace at this point last year, but I mean, it's going to become harder to gain more votes once you have more, obviously. So the fact that he's had double-digit gains this early in the process, it's very encouraging for his case, especially since this is his 4th year on the ballot, so he's got plenty of time.
Yeah, and this is the year where, there's no slam dunk, first ballot candidates, so I feel like a lot of the writers focus more on these, bubble cases, these guys that don't get noticed as much, like Rolen and Andrew Jones, especially. Those are probably the top 2 guys we've talked about so far in terms of, guys that were clean, don't have any PED stuff going on, don't have any off the field stuff going on, but just aren't getting the recognition currently. But, they're getting better looks so far. So that's very good to see. Very good to see. Yeah. Shout out to Chris DeLuca. But
Scott Rolen is now at 56.3%.
Yeah, there we go. So, this is his 4th ballot. I would think he probably gets in maybe his 7th or 8th ballot, or, maybe even quicker than that. I don't know.
I would say so. I mean, we don't have too many big this time first timers coming up. Like, Carlos Beltran is the next one, but he might be actually, no, I guess A-Rod and Ortiz are the next one. But A-Rod might have the PED allegations. Ortiz might have that combined with the DH gate. And then Beltran might have the sign stealing investigation. Carlos Beltran is going to be the first guy on the Hall of Fame ballot where we have to talk about the Astros sign stealing scandal.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he was a guy that was personally affected. He lost his job as the Mets manager. He was brought up in some of the reports saying that it was his doing. He came up with it. And who knows what's actually true. I don't think there's any confirmation on if Beltran was really the guy or not, but it's probably going to affect his Hall of Fame case.
Yeah.
In fact, he's kind of similar with wins above replacement to Scott Rolen.
Yeah. And if he's, one of those guys that's kind of on the bubble, I could see a lot of people, changing their minds about him because of what happened in 2017.
Yeah. And I don't even know if he's like slam. I mean, I think he should be slam dunk, but being that he's similar to Rolen, I don't know if he's going to be. Like, it might take him a few years just by nature. And then he's probably going to lose a lot of votes because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It is similar to Rolen sort of in a way. Beltran had more longevity. He had like 400 home runs, 2,700 hits. He
didn't personally gain anything from the sign stealing. Like, look at his 2017 stats. It was one of the worst years he had. Albeit it was his last year in the majors, but obviously he didn't benefit too much from it. It's just his teammates may have, and it may have, cost him a lot of integrity.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like writers are gonna debate, I guess, like it'll be similar to steroids in that, like, Barry, we talk about like Barry Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer, steroids or no steroids. It's just like, a lot of people think he compromised the game, which I guess wouldn't be true until 2005 in my eyes, because it wasn't punishable till then, but we'll get into that later. But like him compromising the game in 2017 with him being a part of, the biggest cheating scandal in baseball history, it might, how big of a stain is it? We'll see. I mean, guys are going to vote for him. Guys are going to not vote for him. I don't think he's going to be first ballot because of that.
No.
So yeah, we will see. We will see with Carlos Beltran.
But the one interesting thing is that his first year, Bonds and Clemens are going to be off the ballot. Sosa's going to be off the ballot. Schilling's going to be off the ballot. Whether they're in the Hall of Fame or not, they're not going to be on the ballot. So there's a lot of space that could land to Carlos Beltran. But the one difference I'll make between Bonds' case and Beltran's case is Barry Bonds clearly benefited from steroids. Like, look at 2001 to 2004. You can't tell me that he would have done that clean. Same with Roger Clemens. As for Carlos Beltran, he really wasn't good with the sign stealing thing.
Yeah. The point I was making with like Bonds and Clemens is, before, like, even before they touched a needle, they were like,
oh, no doubt, yeah,
top players at their.
I believe Barry Bonds had like 95 wins above replacement on Fangraphs.
Yeah,
by the time he started.
Yeah, we talked about him in the history episode before. I think 98. He was already top 25 in F4 career-wise among position
something
players.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, in terms of that, like, if like Carlos Beltran, with or without the one season of sign stealing, he's going to get, the 400 home runs and the 2,700 hits, obviously. But it's like, writers are going to be just debating like the stain of, him being involved in that scandal on the general game of baseball, because it's not, it's not the best players, it's not called like the, what would it be called if it was only the best players and not, the Hall of Fame, like
the Hall of Gods,
it's the best players club. It's the best players club. So
yeah.
like, then Bonds and Clemens would get in, but a lot of people have a problem with like, the steroids and stuff. They think it compromised the game a lot, and even more so with the cheating scandal. But I guess that's a conversation we'll definitely be having heading into 2023, I believe. But yeah, that's we went on quite a bit of a tangent, but ultimately we will probably be adding, or well, you already have Rolen on your ballot.
Yeah,
I will be adding,
yes.
I'll probably be adding Scott Rolen onto my ballot. He'll be one of the 8, 9, or 10 spots. I am looking forward to our future bubble cases because there are guys I'm kind of hung up on, like Billy Wagner. I'm seeing like, is this guy going to be on my mock ballot? Like,
I would say so, but I added him last year.
yeah, like
So I already know he's going to be on mine. I already know I'm voting for 10 this year.
yeah,
I'm just hung up on who the 10th will be.
I don't have it quite I don't have it quite done yet because I'm thinking of like Sosa and Sheffield, where they're at in my head. There's going to be some interesting things with that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to these future bubble cases. We've got I think we got 4 more bubble cases to go. And one of the episodes will be just going over all the guys with PED allegations and things of that nature.
That would be Bonds, Clemens, Pettit, Ramirez, Sosa, Sheffield.
Yep. So we're going to be talking about that, how each case is affected by the PED allegations and all that fun stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the end of the show here.
That's right.
So we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, want to watch us discuss these things, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is called STBNL with Chris Gianta and Daniel Curran. Although that will change soon, it will be a different under a different name. So if you're listening
next week,
if you're listening next week, a week past December 28th, 2020, it will be under a different name.
So go to our social media handles and you'll figure it out from there.
Yeah. Go to our social media. Follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta and follow Daniel on Twitter at Daniel_Curran. You'll definitely know the title of the show and all that stuff from those sources. Also follow Daniel on Instagram at Daniel_Curran and follow the show Instagram currently at STBNL podcast. That will change as well. But we hope you enjoyed our news breakdown, our bubble case, all that stuff. And we hope to be seeing you for our history shows, first with Nolan Ryan on Thursday and the 1998 Yankees on Friday,
January 1st.
We will see you next week.